Hi, this is Sue Greenwald with AwakenedStories.com. I'm here today with Toni Ghazi. Hey, Toni, how are you?
Hi Sue, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. So how Toni and I are both friends with Daniel James, who I've interviewed maybe 4 or 5 times, and Daniel has been with me on several of the retreats I did and several of the expos that I did, and we've always had cool experiences together. So I interviewed him, and Toni has, I think, seen those videos,
Yeah,
and that's how we became friends. So I
exactly.
had a Bigfoot experience here in Sedona that's still kind of unanswered, and so Toni was telling me some things that I could try. So that was pretty cool.
That was awesome.
Yes, yeah. So Toni, tell us a few of your cool stories, like the fun things that have happened to you.
Yeah. So look, let me tell you a little bit of story about who I am,
Yeah,
and like where I come from,
sure.
because I remembered a lot of things from my childhood that I did not think they were attached or not attached, but linked to all the synchronicities that kind of led me to now. And it's like synchronicity after synchronicity after synchronicity, right? And I'm sure a lot will come as we dialogue, a lot of memories. So I'm Lebanese. I'm from Lebanon originally, and I moved to the US when I was 15 years old. But my whole life in Lebanon, my first, I would say, memory, um, I was at home, like with my parents, and I see this like young boy actually like peer in the hallway, like through a door. And I know I saw a head kind of peer in and like look away. And
Right,
I told my parents that they're like, no, you're seeing things, no, you're hallucinating things. I swear to God, it was a boy. That
right.
was my first early recollection. I want to say maybe I was 5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, which was pretty cool. And then going on around 10 years old, or so, in school, like our school back in Lebanon, was a French school, and it was kind of situated in, I would say, like a mountainous type, like cliff. So there's a lot of trees, and there's all these superstitions about like witches. And I mean, you could like sit here and say, "Oh, it's just witches." I swear to God, I saw two like witches on a broomstick flying behind the trees, and I know that three of my friends saw them too. So that was kind of like back in Lebanon, like the stories. I mean, they just like resonates. I could see the witch right now in my mind,
Okay.
flying through like the air.
How old were you then?
I want to say about 10, maybe eight,
Okay.
9 or 10,
Yeah.
in that range.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, there was some fear involved because the whole talk about witches, like they take little boys or whatever it is, all the superstitions of different cultures. But I know that happened. Like I wasn't hallucinating, and I know my friends saw it too, right? It was for a
Right.
split second.
Right.
Um, Now, I'm gonna fast forward like a bit to now, because I connect to the mantis like beings. I don't know if you know, right? So I'm gonna go back to Lebanon, where like we used to go to my grandmother's home, and her garden was filled with mantis beings, or with
Praying
um,
mantises.
yes, with
Yeah.
praying mantises. And
Yeah.
and like of course back then I wasn't awakened. I just thought
Mm.
like they were praying mantises, but now I know that they have always been guiding me. And I awoke to them about 2 years ago, and like we'll get to that story later. But this is all in Lebanon, right?
Okay.
Like the things
Yep.
that I could remember, which was pretty like looking back in retrospect, I'm like, oh my God, we've always been awakened. We remember in little pieces, etc. I'm just looking at my list here, like just to
No,
remember.
that's fine. That's fine. You're coming
Papa,
right out of the gate with great stories. I love it.
I know. I mean, look, it's just look synchronistically, like the universe wants to share like these stories, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
the flow.
Yeah.
Now, like throughout high school, like we moved here when I was a freshman in high school. Like, I spoke no English straight to freshman. It was the first year was quite, you know, um,
Hard.
I say challenging, yes, or
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And like nothing happened in turn. Oh no, sorry, it just came to mind. Of course, something happened. So I spoke no English in like the first year, and like back then it was 1995, where like you would order catalogs like through magazines where you can I guess check mark you want garden magazine or whatever.
Right.
I didn't have any money. I was 15 years old. I swear to God, what came like through the mail is a magazine called SETI, the Search for Extra
Terrestrial
Terrestrials.
intelligence. Yeah.
Exactly, which I mean, I spoke no English. I didn't know like what that was. It came to our house month after month after month after month for a whole year.
Yeah.
Like how crazy.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That was my first kind of, I would say like exposure to aliens or like to life outside of like Mother Earth.
Mhm.
And I think it kind of like started clicking little by little, like all like there's all these surfaces in the back of your head of these ideas that come up and make you believe that it's life is beyond what you see. Um, Let me see. And then like through college, I would say, I've gone through the religious kind of realm where I studied all the religions and I was curious about like spirituality and like belief systems. And like we grew up Christians. So, I had like Jesus and Mother Mary and all that stuff, which I veered away from all those ideas. And I have become more spiritual, like more that we're are powerful beings, that we create our own reality, and of course all these other consciousnesses, what we call Jesus, we call Mother Mary, is all part of it, right?
Right. Right.
But you know what I mean? But that has changed. But then around, I want to say, when I was 29, I was at the gym, and my dear friend says, "You got to go to the psychic." And like back then, the only thing I like believed like would be psychics, right? I didn't believe much in alien. I mean, I've thought aliens maybe there, but no knowledge of what I know now. So I started going to the psychic like once a year and then twice a year. And then it became every single month where I would study with her. And it was more spirituality. It was nothing about aliens. It was just about like energies. And like she would download things, right? I didn't know the word download then, but now I do. And like little by little, my mind started expanding and expanding and expanding. And she would feel my energies and she would see auras and like chakras, and I didn't know then what chakras meant. I pretended I did, and like you know what I mean. You think you know what it is, and then you evolve and you keep going. So, so like the relationship like with her was really like quite profound because she expanded my consciousness that I started becoming, in a sense, more, I want to say, like reliant on me and like my own discernment, which I didn't know I had. And like that just sparked a whole, I think, a whole stories of like synchronicities, like to the point where like we had a dog one time. I was walking him, and I literally, I'm not kidding, and I'm looking at the screen. I want you to see my eyes. I like literally saw myself, felt him walking, like to the point that I could see the level of the grass. I mean, as you're walking, you're this way. From a dog perspective, grass is this, and the wind hitting my hair, my fur as a
Yeah.
dog,
Yeah.
it was an absolute, like, almost like a body swap.
Yeah.
Literally, I was a dog. It was just a moment. I'm getting chills right now. It was an absolute profound moment. I run back home to my husband. I said, "Oh my God, Craig, you have to listen to what I just experienced." And it went from one head to another because he wasn't as awoken, but it was absolutely just an incredible experience of like being. You know what I mean? Of like
So
being the being.
how long would you say you were in the body of the dog?
I want to say about 2 or 3 seconds, but it felt longer than that.
Yeah.
It was just a few steps, but
Yeah.
in the moment, I could just boom, feel everything,
Yeah.
the wind against the fur, the height, the view of the grass, like the hopping or whatever the term is, how dogs walk, one, two, three,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
leg, second, third leg, fourth leg. It was just, and it's just a knowing. I mean, and of course, like now I know what like a knowing is, but like as the years like progressed, I kept having these knowings where you just know it. You feel it, you experience it, it's it. There's a
Right.
being like
Right.
sense of it. Absolutely phenomenal.
So you're saying that you started going to a psychic and you went, occasionally, and then it became a little bit more frequent, but you feel like, the psychic person kind of helped wake you up spiritually. Like you
Yeah.
learned more about energy, chakras, auras, that kind of stuff.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like to a point, I went to her for a year and a half every single month. I mean, I was so hooked onto that idea that I just wanted
Right.
to learn. And like she would
Right.
teach me, and like we would do readings and all these things.
Yeah.
But it was my permission slip. So, you know, uh,
Yeah.
it was my permission slip to allow my mind to expand
Okay.
more. There's
Okay.
all kinds of permission slips people could use, as you know.
Okay. So
Yeah,
basically, that really became like a catharsis for you, or whatever. Catalyst is a better word. Sorry, a catalyst where a stepping off point where you became more spiritually oriented in a quicker fashion.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and then in conjunction with that, I'm like what I'm like remembering right now, we have like the Church of the Immaculate Conception here in Washington D.C., like where the Pope comes, like when he visits, and it's a church where they have all the saints of all the world, every country from Vietnam, from China, from Lebanon. I remember like during that phase, I would go like to that church almost weekly, and I would just go from saint to saint to saint because each so like they had a chapel like for each in the big church there's 100 chapels and each
Yeah.
one represents one saint from one country, and I would just connect with the energy of with like the energy of the divine. And just I mean there's a lot of synchronicity, so it wasn't like a religious like experience in like the sense about the Bible and all that stuff. It became an expanded awareness that like there's this force out there that I'm part of, and I just got to know it was just absolutely beautiful. It's yeah, and that just came to mind. You know, actually that wasn't part of my list. Amazing.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So excellent. Well, it
yeah,
sounds so interesting. Seeing something through a dog's eyes, for example, is like
great.
that's fabulous. You know, you get really a alternative viewpoint when you can consciously remember that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, totally. And it just allows you this like different view like of life that you've never seen before,
Right.
because we've always seen life from our perspective,
Right.
our
Of
view, our
course.
knowing. For a moment, it was a knowing of somebody else's being. I mean, it's hard to describe unless you experience
Right.
it. Like, oh my God,
Right.
absolutely. Um, but kind of to the point, as we go through life, as your viewers are going through their own life, they have their own synchronicities. Everything is tied to the next step,
Right.
right?
Right.
And don't discount it, just absorb it, just take it in,
Yeah.
just love it, just be it, just and look, you don't have to know how it works sometimes, right? So I mean, of course, I'm looking in like retrospect right now. I've learned
Yeah.
that I don't need to know how things work,
Right.
right? It's just be. And if you had that experience, just immerse in it and just like remember it. Because like when you remember it, you're in that moment at that moment again,
Right.
right? It's not a remembrance. Remembrance is a now moment of like connection.
Right.
So
It's so interesting because when you start to let go of like your control of your life, like how we think life should be, what we want to do, what we need to accomplish, how it has to be, blah, 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 right? All that
yeah,
stuff, which
yeah,
I'm an expert at. Okay. When you
I am
start to
too.
be able to let that go and
Yes,
you can take a step back, you realize how beautiful and how creative and expansive the plan is and
yeah,
how everything meshes in. So something that you might have viewed as a negative is really a beautiful lesson or a stepping stone to what you want and you didn't even know you wanted it or whatever. It's amazing. It's just letting that control piece go, you
yeah,
know?
totally. I mean, look, like when you control things, you're kind of,
Yeah, yeah,
in a sense, telling the universe, this is my universe.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
like limiting. I always tell my clients, you're like limiting the universe with its infinite tools. It has infinite tools to work magic for you. But when you have expectation or controlling the idea or controlling the circumstance, you're telling the universe, you have this box that has 8 tools and please work with it.
yeah,
Versus relinquish, and you don't have to know how it works. And then it creates magic in your life.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, the pandemic has been a great teacher for me. And I haven't loved it, of course. No one has, but I went from like really a type A, very scheduled. I had to get a billion things done a day, blah, 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 to like much more relaxed and laid back and able to see from a different perspective. I see what some of my friends are doing. They're beating their heads against a wall to get the results. And if they just let go a little bit, they'd have the same or better results. And I've tried to say that softly, but they don't get it yet. You know, they have to go through it. So
Yeah, they have to go through their journey. Like we all have our journey. And it's funny you mentioned the pandemic, because the pandemic is when I awoke. I went from 0 to a million.
yeah.
Like to the point that I channel, like that I've talked to my men's beings. I see spaceships. I can call them in. I have nights, and like we'll get to that point. So like this happened in the past 2 years. So we're progressing a little bit to that.
Yeah.
To that point.
So one last question before we resume is you had,
Sure.
when you were about 5, you saw the head of a little boy in the hallway of your home. Do you know who he was, why he was there, what the message was? Like, have you ever gotten anything further on that?
You know, thank you for asking that. I never have, but now since the seed is in my mind, I'm gonna try to connect with him because I know how to connect with things now. I mean, and just speaking to you right now, when I have my eyes open or even closed, I could see the head peer like into the hallway and peer out. You know, I'll have to ponder that, but I can get you.
You know, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Like,
no worries.
You don't often know. So sometimes, like, I'll have an experience like that. If I'm smart, I write it down, even on a Post-it note. I've got only a billion Post-it notes around the house, but I'll write it down somewhere and I kind of put it in the back burner. And then another piece of the puzzle comes forward. And, you know, like I'll read something in a book, I'll do this. And then it's like the clues all come together and I'm like, oh, now I get it.
Yes.
But, you know, you just have to kind of like have your eyes open and be willing to like consider different angles, I guess.
Yes, totally. I mean, just what's coming to me, like in terms of like intuition, is that. Do you mind if I close my eyes quickly and just talk? Oh. Okay, so like messages you're not coming through, is that we came to you to give you a peer. We spoke, or the channel spoke about peering through the hallway. We're giving you a view of what your future will be. It was, in a sense, a catalyst to allow your mind to expand and remember that you are connected to that boy. This boy is a facet of the many facets of all that is, and is part of you. You will be reconnecting with him in the very near future. Yeah. Wow. It's
that's interesting.
Sorry, I got chills. Yeah. Wow. I mean, so you know, I would like to take a moment just to thank you, because like I've been telling people that we all activate each other. You meet these souls, and we're all part of the same family.
Right.
And we come at like certain times to activate parts of us.
Right.
You know, in a sense, I never took the time to look back at all these points in my life to see what they mean in relation to now. But you've just opened that beautiful portal.
Excellent.
So thank you.
Well, good. And I didn't mean to interrupt you. So your last story was about the dog, which I mean, like in the 3 seconds that you were the dog, it seems like you felt the dog's, like, let's say, being in the moment and his or her joy at the wind on its fur and like the physical experience. So which is cool, because that's the way most dogs act. You know, they're like, wow, happy just to be whatever. It doesn't even matter what it is. They're just happy, right?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I could feel kind of like the being. And when I say like the being, like, it's like we have our egos, right? That kind of come in and out, and fears and doubts and the thinking and the whys and the like the control. With him, when that happened, or with me when that happened with him, there was none of that. There was just this peaceful. It was being a dog and being in the moment, and like the moment, the time, the essence. It's hard to describe. It's just, there was nothing but just pure joy, and everything is beautiful. I mean, I could feel the ray on my, like right now, I could feel the ray of sunshine on his skin. I could feel the wind. I mean, even at one piece of fur moved, I could feel that and be with it. I could feel him right now, just as I'm speaking, his mouth open and happy as he's, as he's walking. It's just amazing. But then the thing that caught me in my mind, that's like keeps resonating, is the view, because we're humans, we're always on our 2 feet, and we see things, we never are on grass level, right? Or the whatever. I could see it now with such a different perspective of life.
Yeah. I remember being a little kid looking up at my parents and thinking they were like giants, like you're like a foot or 2 tall and they're like 5 or 6 feet, and just like they're giants, and so interesting, isn't it? Perspective.
Like totally. I mean, I've gone back to certain parts of Lebanon where like we were in what I thought was a big mountain. I go there now and I'm like, oh my God, it wasn't as big as I thought it was, right? You know what I mean? Like you've done forever. And like you think this tree used to be massive, and you're like, wow, this is a small, tiny tree. But it's perspectives of life, right? Which is really beautiful.
Excellent. All right. Well, so exciting. All right, go back to your next story. I can't wait to hear it.
Yes, next story. Okay, let's see. We talked about Bay, psychic. So like this was back in, oh my God, yes. So like part of it, this is crazy, and I have like proof of it here, and I have a vision, and I have a photo for you on my phone. So as I'm going to this psychic, she's expanding my mind, and I have all these sessions recorded. By the way, I have like not thousands, but hundreds, of recordings. And like one day, my psychic, like she says, like you need to have joy. You need to reconnect with the word joy. Literally, she said joy. I'm gonna go here for just one moment. I'm gonna pull up one thing.
Okay.
I'm driving in my car, in DC. It was rainy, and you can see like in the photo that there's rain droplets on the windshield. I had the window cracked like this much,
right?
Because it was raining. I wouldn't open the window down, and I stopped at a red light. I guess there was like a gust of wind, and through that little crack, I swear to God, what came through? The small coloring book.
Oh my God!
It says joy, and then like you see the little dot on her like third eye.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not kidding. Immediately, I call my psychic, like, "Oh my God, Christina!" I said, "You have to see what happened," and I'm gonna show you like the photo because I took a screenshot, of it, just like and I can send you those later. Oh my goodness, where's the screenshot?
Wow,
right there. This
cool.
is as it was happening. It landed right
on your seat.
Yes, and like you see like the crack of the window, how small it was, and like you see the rain landed right there.
That's insane.
Like, I mean, like for this to fly in the air, for this to have to say joy, when my psychic just told me yesterday, have joy, and it's the heart, and it's colored, and you have the third eye, and for it to enter through the little crack. I mean, the window this much. Like, what are the odds? Do you know what I mean?
There are no coincidences, right?
Listen, 2017, and I wrote the date on the back because I don't want to forget. If you can see it.
Yeah.
2017, and I'm gonna frame it so I don't lose it. But like the synchronicity of and like then I started believing in manifestation. This was my first physical manifestation of an idea that I talked to myself, that actually like my psychic brought to my awareness. That I was like, oh my God, like, and I mean, like when this happens to you, you're like so excited. You're like,
right.
The universe talking to you.
Crazy.
I know.
It's awesome. Crazy though.
I know. And then like once that happened, and I kind of lessened like to go to the psychic, and I became more like aware of my own discernment. And then I would watch an alien show here, and I would watch a documentary there about just expanding consciousness, just little by little. And then COVID happened, and I knew the reason why COVID happened is to expand all of there was a knowing that occurred. It expanded all of our consciousness. Mother Earth stopped. Every culture, every language, every status, it doesn't matter, stopped and went into your heart to seek the answers like from within, and to focus on things that we haven't had time to focus before because we're so busy with life and bills or whatever it is, and ideas and concepts. And literally, it was a wave of synchronicity from show to show. I got introduced to Gaia. Have you heard of Gaia?
Yeah, the online TV show or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. And
Yes,
on
got it.
that, I became obsessed with extra dimensionals. If you've heard of the interview, like with Ed, which is extra dimensionals, and all the channelers, and all these shows, and these things I didn't seek out in a sense. Not like I said there, started typing, I want to watch a show, and this, it would just come,
Right,
and I would watch, and my mind would absorb and expand.
right,
I would wake up in the middle of the night, cannot go back to bed. I mean,
right.
like on a work day, like 2, 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., wake up and I'm just obsessed with knowledge of things. And literally, I went from zero to a million.
Okay. Okay.
Like my awareness went,
Right,
and there was like a knowing.
right,
Synchronicity after synchronicity, like time with me, I see like repetitive time, 111, 333, 222, 444. My phone, so this is my like this is my screenshot or like my screensaver on my phone. If you go through my 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 photo album, thousands and thousands of just, I wake up at night and I look and I see and I take a screenshot.
right.
Time after time. Even today it happened. It's
Yeah,
just, it's become a thing now. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Which these are markers like to let you know that you're in this in the right aligned vibration. At that moment you're, you know, aligned, and
yeah,
that you're on the right path or the more aligned path.
yeah.
And just from there, I was so interested in like past life regression that I've never had one. And I had one the year of COVID. Absolute insanity. That's where I met my mantis being. They, the first time ever, like they showed me the head of a mantis kind of like this, right? And with the eyes. And I knew I have a connection with the mantis world. And it was confirmed by a great Akashic reader. It was confirmed by other like people. And I know because now, you know, I talk to them and they talk to me, and
Right.
it's just incredible. And from there, like during COVID, I bought this night vision camera that like you can see at night. And I would get called, and I can send you videos. I mean, and of course Daniel helped me with a few of the videos. I get called to go out to just like to go outside, and like I started videotaping. I have ships, I have stars that blink at me like almost Morse code.
Right.
I have a V-shaped ship that flew right over our head. I have orbs that fly in the air. I would meditate and I would like call a civilization, and like 20 seconds later, the ship would go by. And I'm saying fast speed. And it's all on a night vision. You cannot see it with the naked eye. You have to see it like with a camera, but it's on the video of the camera. So I just became obsessed with looking in the sky. It's just, and I would just get called and called to the point that during the cicadas, like when the cicadas came, I don't know if like you guys had cicadas like last year, amazing energetical time. During the daylight at 2:30 p.m., broad daylight, super sunny, I look up in the sky and I get called, and I'm seeing this small, tiny like light. I thought it was like aluminum foil flying in the air, reflecting. And I'm going like, I must be crazy. How can an aluminum? It must be a massive aluminum foil to even give that much. And I recorded on my phone
Yeah.
this massive star light that kept like turning. It would be bright, like brighter than the sun, and it would disappear. It would turn into a sphere. It would disappear. It came 3 times in June, all recorded on my phone. I can send you all those via Dropbox. Not a
I
joke.
love that. And I have also recorded, we'll call them light ships, orbs, whatever you want to call them, in broad daylight. And they'll pop in, like there'll be one, and then it pops out, and then there's 5, then it pops out, and then there's 3, and it pops out. So, and it's really hard to catch them with your phone because the sky is actually huge when you're looking up.
Yes.
But I do have those on my phone, and I've had it multiple occasions. It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And those activate you. I mean, I've learned like during the year, when COVID happened, what activation means. It's like those ships are like part of who we are. It could be your future self. It could be a facet of you helping you remember who you were or are.
Right.
It just, I mean, just phenomenal during the day. I mean, literally, it's like the sun.
Right.
If you like miniaturize it into a small little dot, that's just ever so bright and just twirling.
Right.
It's
Right.
insanity. Like you'll see it. I want to send it to you.
I've gone all over the world, and at night, like even in my driveway, I can look up on a clear night, of course,
Yeah.
and see ships everywhere. And there's this one specific type of ship that it looks like laser lights. And let's say it's red, and it like kind of goes, it's almost like the segments of a raspberry. It kind of travels around the segments, and then it turns blue, yellow, whatever it might be.
Wow.
And I always thought it would be interesting if we could somehow decode that to see if there's a message with those lights
Yes.
that they're giving us. Like, is it like Morse code, like you said, or or is it just a cluster of ships moving, or you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things. I don't know what it is. I do know it's a ship, and
Yes.
it's so cool.
Yeah.
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 So
I can't believe you mentioned Morse code decoder because I just researched last week Morse code decoder to see how I can decode this star that kept flashing at like
flashing.
certain rates, but I'm not sure how to move that movie. So we have to kind of research on how that can be captured
Yeah.
and decoded. But
Yeah.
incredible,
I guess
incredible.
I guess if you could record it and then maybe slow it down. I'm making this up, and then I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we'll need Daniel's help because
Yeah.
he's the
We'll,
video.
we'll- yeah, we'll give him one more project, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, I know nothing about cameras apart from my night vision that I learned how
Yeah.
to. I know the basics, but it
Yeah.
works. So like it would be great if you can do it for us and just
Right.
to see.
Yeah.
And then the craziest thing happened last week, and when I say crazy, it's crazy. So I wake up, I always have my phone with me, and I see it's 8 a.m. 8.00. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym. The gym opens in about an hour and a half. I have some coffee, I have my shake, I take the dogs out, I fold laundry. Ironically enough, when I fold laundry, it totally centers me. Like my husband hates folding laundry. It's to me, I just go into the zone.
Right.
And I know it took at least 45 minutes to do all these things. And I'm drinking my shake and I'm washing it. And I'm looking at the stove to see what time it is now. So I go to the gym. I swear to God, it was 7:59 a.m. Listen, I woke up at 8 a.m. and I did stuff for at least 45 minutes. I know how long these things take, from brushing my teeth, flossing my teeth, doing this, doing that, the shake, walking the dog. It was only 7:59 a.m. after I've done all that stuff. Immediately, I'm thinking, oh, it's like daylight savings time, literally. So I go to the laptop upstairs, I go to the TVs, I'm like, oh, all the times are like 7:59. So an hour passed by and an hour didn't pass by. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
I woke up at 8. I would not have woken up at 7 a.m. No reason for me to wake up at 7 a.m. Like, like, look, we all have our routine and how we wake up and like what we do things. I know if on the weekend, if I don't have to work, I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna be up at 7. I know when I looked at that phone, it was 8 a.m.
That's cool.
Did all that stuff. It only immediately I talked to my Chandler community, and I have and they said that. It's like one person said that you did not create time. You were in the moment. That like time has stopped. You created all these things, but in the now moment. And like the other one said, you saw a future, or like you were on the future timeline of like yourself. You kind of peaked, into that, but it's never happened before. I mean, like when it happens to you, like you kind of question the world, like.
Yeah.
I know I saw 8 a.m. It wasn't a dream. Like I grabbed the phone. You know what I mean?
Right. I've had that happen a few times to me, and it's very cool. And then
Yeah.
there's been times that, like the day or the weekend, like, we have so much time in a weekend, let's say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it feels like you fit a month's worth of stuff into one weekend.
Yes.
Like I've done weekend events, okay. And at the end of the weekend, it was like, oh, we were here longer than 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Like we fit months of stuff into 2.5 days, but I think it was done in a way I couldn't explain on this video, but
Yeah.
it was just a knowing I had, like, we've been here a long time, because the connection I felt with the people there was very deep. It wasn't, and I had not met a single one of them before that event.
Yes. Yes.
That's happened to me several times.
Yeah.
One time I was in Mount Shasta, and I did like 3 or 4 days worth of stuff before 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
There's no way. I went on all these hikes and I did all this stuff. There's no way it could have happened like that. And,
I know.
you had to be there because the feeling of time stretching, or I don't know how to explain it, was
Yeah.
there. But when I actually looked at the clock and it wasn't
Yeah.
even dinner time, I was like, there's no way that can be true,
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So Bashar talks about time being slippery, or it becomes like slippery. Do you know Bashar, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing is, like, back to Bashar for a moment. Really, because of COVID, I heard Bashar about 5 years ago, or like 6 years ago. I didn't resonate with his voice. I could not stand his vibration. I'm like, absolutely not. Literally, I turned him off. Like, I wasn't on the frequency to receive. When like COVID happened, literally became obsessed. I have every recording, and I've listened to every recording since like 1985 to 2018, or like maybe 19, the most recent one I bought.
Right.
Every single one I've listened 4 or 5 times.
Right. Yeah.
Like in the emoji with the break.
Yeah. That was me with Abraham Hicks in 1999. It was like, when I first heard the very first tape back then,
Yeah.
I just lit up with goosebumps. I started crying. I didn't even know what it was. And then I became a maniac trying to understand it. I went to all the events. I got the CDs. I read the books, the whole thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I've never heard of Abraham Hicks. All the other, there's all these permission slips. Like for us, I started with Bashar, but just last year I heard about Abraham Hicks from a friend of mine, and he,
They.
Esther, Esther, is fantastic. So, but like, back to your time, with time being kind of elastic and like slippery, like that's what he talks about, is that like you slip in and out of the 3D physical time, right? Because there's really like no time. That's just our construct, which is amazing. But I want to tell you a few stories about my crazy past life regressions that I've had.
Okay.
So the first one, like, I meet the man, and he shows me his face, and he gives me like a few messages, and like that's what it was. The next scene, because you go through a door, like you open the first door, and what do you see or whatever? I've always resonated. Like, things start clicking when like you get these experiences. I was a Black young slave, probably about 10 or 12 years old. I was buried alive in a coffin. I went through it, but it was such a magical experience afterwards. So as I'm going through it, I'm screaming, it's dark, I can't breathe, there's like dirt coming in, absolutely like freaking out that I'm gonna die. And I die. This instant I die, I see myself from a different perspective, hovering above, laughing hysterically at the concept of death. Because in that moment, I'm like, why in the hell was I freaking out? There is no death. Like, do you know what I mean? It was an absolute mind-blowing, expanded new way of understanding death. I know now there is no death. Like, I died in that moment. I saw myself laughing hysterically at like the dead boy, going like, oh my God, why was I freaking out? I'm still here.
Would you say that experience helped you in this lifetime so that you are no longer as fearful? You know how we go through our day to day and we're afraid that we're going to get hurt or whatever, injured in some way. Just in our everyday life. I'm not saying we're walking around freaking out, but
yeah.
Would you say that you're less fearful than you were before that?
Absolutely. Because I went scuba diving and I got certified like a few years back. And I've always snorkeled back in Lebanon. I'm a Pisces. I'm a fish. I love water. And I never would have thought that breathing through the apparatus under the water would freak me out. Like, for somebody who's been in the beach all the time, it freaked me out. And it was like because of that, the breathing underwater, or the breathing in a coffin where you have no more air. Like I had a little like episode there where I couldn't, like we were in a shallow, I guess, place where we kind of like practicing, and like a 5 foot place. I was afraid. I mean, I'm standing up, so it's not deep. And the water is like to my stomach. I would not. I was so afraid I couldn't go down just to test the breathing under. You know what I mean? It's not like I got dropped in a 20 foot height of
Right,
water.
right,
I was
right,
so afraid. I just, it took a whole day,
right.
like for me to kind of come in terms with that. And then I did like eventually. And then I had another kind of past life regression where I remembered I was it wasn't Lyra, but the other um like the Crystal City. I forget the name of it now.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Atlantis, where I actually drowned, in Atlantis. So that was, it was why I had, I had the phobia of like breathing,
Right,
underwater.
right.
It was crazy. And then I had another like past life regression where I was an infant in the desert. It was in Africa. And like my mom had me wrapped in one of those like wraps. I was probably 4 months old or whatever. And like she had a heart attack and like she died in the desert.
Mm.
And like she laid me down and it was so sunny. It was so hot. I could see my body like disintegrating. I was super extremely like thirsty. I could see the image of my skin like becoming crinkly and crinkly because I'm becoming dehydrated. And then I see the most beautiful hand, like the way that it's kind of like being shown on the screen, come to me and it was, I mean, it was a beautiful man's hand, like beauty, not in a sexual way, but in a beauty way. It's hard to describe. And he like grabs me, and all I remember is that I lived with him for the next like 17 years, and he's guiding me. He had a long beard, handsome presence. And then he leaves when I was 17 years old, and I get the awakening that, oh my God, this whole time it was my future self really guiding me. He was never there. He was like never there physically. The most, it's the weird, so like talking about time, like being slippery, is that as I'm being like regressed, I remember and I know I lived with this man because I remember there's this house in the foothills and we lived together. We experienced a life together. But then at one point, he was gone, and the awakening or the awareness came through that he was never physically with me ever. He was never. He was just with me in spirit, but I somehow manifested him. It's hard to describe, but it's just
So you, the baby in this case, did you live or what, like, so that you lived, but you somehow fabricated this man who rescued you?
yes, but I mean, how could I have lived when I was 3 or 4 months old, right? So like, did somebody else take me in, and he was just my guide all along, and I just remember him as a guide because perhaps I was on
Yeah,
some other awareness. You know what I mean? Um, I mean, it's just
super
great,
interesting. Yeah,
super interesting,
super.
and just remembering that just like makes you think about, oh, like why was I aware of him only and not whoever took care of me, right? Was he there? Was he not there? But there was a knowing that he was never there. Like when I hit 17 or 16, whatever that age is, where he left and I know he left, I realized, oh, he was never with me. He was just my guide. It was a knowing. Um, just phenomenal, phenomenal stuff. And then I have a horse. There's this one horse. Like I was meditating and I see this head of a horse. I forget who like the French painter is, like where he paints and it's all kind of moving, like it's like moving paints.
Van Gogh, like Van
Maybe
Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Yeah, yeah.
His face was like this, all kinds of color. And I heard George, George, George. So this horse, George, like came through. And while I was dying in the coffin, the horse wasn't my horse. He was my master's horse, but he was my guide. He was right on top of where I was buried, in a sense, being with me as I passed away. And I look up and I'm like laughing at myself, and he was there.
Yeah, yeah.
Just, just insane, insane remembrance, right?
So interesting.
Yeah, like this is all in like the consciousness, in the field of our consciousness. It's
Right.
never the Akashic record or the records or whatever it is. But as you go through life, as you awaken little by little, you use different permission slips, right, to remember them, whether it's past life regression, whether it's an incident, whether reading a book, whether having this conversation, whether listening to other people. It just elicits these remembrances and you awaken little by little. It's just
Right.
life. I mean, I thought life is always so like beautiful in my 3D mind, but now it's absolutely magical.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, the more stuff happens, it's just, the more excited I become.
This is fascinating. You know, your stories are so interesting. Like I love listening to this. And then you're like just figuring out how does it affect your current life? Like what does it mean? You know, it's all good.
Listen, I mean, I can go into all kinds of things. I mean, like I grew up poor, like my dad worked at McDonald's when we moved from the US, making $4 an hour, like raising my brother, um, um, like mom and I. So like we didn't grow up with wealth or I guess abundance, the big umbrella of like abundance. So like you would easily say, oh, I could have been stuck in the world of lack. And I was. I had to like work on those definitions, like not listen to my parents' fear, their lens of life, you know, because like you learn through all these experiences, whether it's your coworkers, your classmates, like your parents, right? You just kind of want to emulate them and you think that's how you're supposed to live life. And that's what
Right.
definitions are. But I have literally fabricated my own life now. It's just the most. I don't have, and I mean, of course, fear creeps in every once in a while, and like you know, I grab it and I hug it and I love it. I said, "Thank you for reminding me that I don't want you in my this life. That's okay. I know you're there. I know you exist. I'm not invalidating you, and you can come every once in a while, but you're not part of my physical
Right.
life. So you create these things. You become empowered. You know you are an empowered being when you trust, and you know it when you test yourself, even during the lowest moments. Like this is where you really test the universe is there. Is when during the lowest moments where you would have reacted this way, which would have been like negative, lack, or whatever, you
Right.
didn't, and you chose to react this way, while at the same time you're getting all the signs things aren't happening or
Right.
things aren't working. It's in that moment where you are telling the universe, you know what? I'm seeing all these negative vibrations or like misaligned vibrations, but that's okay. I know, I don't know how, but I know it's gonna work. And then and I'm getting chills right now. The moment you do that, and the world opens. Like, look, I have chills. I don't know if you can
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Well,
Like, I
you
mean,
know,
I'm so hairy, but anyways.
just 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 knowing you from the little bit that I do, you're an extremely positive person. All right, in general. And I really think that that open-minded, expansive attitude helps because when you're fearful, you're like what? You're closed, right? And you're not willing to take risks and you're like kind of hunched over and you're protecting yourself and your stuff, whatever. When you're trusting the universe and you're having a good life, you're open, open, open. And as you like you've had great experiences the past few years,
Yeah.
and now you're more and more open. Well, now it opens a door for more and more, we'll call them positive, fun, exciting experiences. Wouldn't you say?
1,000,000%. And
Yeah.
look, the key, like what I learned from my experience, and you know, every person can see it from a different view or perspective,
Right. Right.
is that we get so caught up in like wanting to know how things work, how it's gonna work, when it's all and it's the control factor, right? I wanna, you know, I'm thinking positive, I'm like visualizing, I'm doing this, you're doing that cool thing, but then at the same time you're trying to control how is it going to happen really, right? There's this voice, how is it going to happen? Is it going to happen today, tomorrow, next month? Like am I going to see, like, right, you're becoming, and it's fear driving those thoughts.
Right.
Then my advice to people is you don't need to know how it happens. Our job is not to know how the universe works. Our job is to trust that we're powerful creators
Right.
and that it will work. That's it. And
Right.
then it will do its magic.
Right. I
Because
agree with you. Yeah.
yeah, because our 3D physical mind isn't capable of understanding, right? How expansive the universe is. We're not there yet. Like we're not like spirit. When we're in spirit, we'll get all the elements. And I think something just like when you see the recording, there's something that flew by here.
I saw it fly by in back of you. It was bright. At first
Okay,
I thought
so
it
like
was a fairy.
okay, so we'll see if it's a bug or not. So that would be a good confirmation.
Yeah, I
But
don't think it's a bug.
I mean, like we don't have bugs in the house, so I know that 100%. So, but I lost my train of thought.
Just about the universe, like
Yeah,
being open.
yeah. Yeah, that you don't need to know the mechanics, of it, right? Our 3D mind is not capable of understanding on spirit level. You don't need to. You just gotta trust, be in the vibration of love, be in the vibration of light, and being aligned, and know that the universe will provide. And regardless of what you observe, you can be in your own bubble reality, and there's a million other bubbles of people's lives. You can still observe negativity, everything on the spectrum, everything is possible. It doesn't mean that's your reality.
Right. Exactly.
Super, super important.
Yeah, exactly. So, Abraham Hicks does talk about that. Basically, she says, when you're a certain vibration, you
Yeah.
will not rendezvous with people. Let's say you're here. You're not going to rendezvous or even really come across the people that are not of similar vibration, only those that are here. And what we aspire to be is up here. So
Yes.
we want to hang out with the highest, most, like the most positive and, the people that are going places. And I don't mean financially or
Of
that
course,
way.
of course.
I mean that they're spiritually evolving. So
The
we want to
vibration.
hang with them and they want to hang with us. And we keep, helping each other up the ladder, which I think
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to do with these videos here,
totally, totally. I
fun.
mean, you are such a blessing, and look, look, this is the first time we talk really,
Yeah.
and I could feel your energy from like day number one. But
Yeah.
you're a portal. You're allowing people to have
Yeah.
this like portal view, this opportunity to just remember themselves, or remember how powerful they are, right? We all are. Um, but like what you just said is true. It's all about vibrations, all about frequency. It's not like you don't see other frequencies. They're always there, but you're not going to interact with them as much. And like sometimes when you like go through life and like you have ups and downs, that's okay, right? The down does not mean you went down. So as you're going up, you're kind of going up, down, up, down. The thing is keeps going up and up and up, right? So the down doesn't mean you drop down. It's just a little down, but you keep
Right.
rising and rising and rising, right?
Right.
It's all part of life. It's all part of like the stepping stones, right? Everything is learning experience. Everything is expansion, even the negative, right? The moment you invalidate something and say, oh, like there's no negativity, then you're pushing yourself in a corner of only positivity, and that doesn't do you service because you're invalidating parts of yourself. Because who are we all?
Yeah.
Because all that is all that is. The good, the positive in between.
I'm finding that as my vibration raises, now we have bad days, we have drama or crisis or whatever you want to call it. So I'm here, and then I might dip down, but I'm able to recover faster as my vibration raises throughout my life. I'm able to recover from those little dips faster. Now, when I was younger, and this has nothing to do with age, but this is just me. When I wasn't as aware as I am now, if I had a crisis, it would be boom, crash.
Disaster, the world ended.
Out of the hole and get back to where I was. But
Yeah.
as I've done that and my awareness has expanded, like the drama pieces, they're there. I still feel them. I go through it just like everybody else, but I'm able to recover a little bit easier. And I think it'll be even easier as I go up the ladder a little bit. Like the lessons are always there. It's how you handle them,
Totally. And like what Bashar says always is the measure on how you know if you changed or not is how you react to the same situation.
Yeah.
So let's say like today you had one situation where you just crumbled like into pieces. The same thing happens tomorrow. Like things should always happen. We can't control when, but it's how you react to them to know whether you're not or change. And it's okay if you regress a little bit and whatever, right? But the measure of change is how you react to the same thing that happened yesterday and today, but two different reactions.
Yeah.
Yes. And look, these things happen to us also like synchronistically to show us, to give us a clear message that I have changed. You know what I mean? Because without those little proofs, you don't know how well you're doing in a sense.
Exactly.
And
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I was saying everything is a gift. Everything is an opportunity. I've become obsessed with the idea as everything that happens is an opportunity for learning. Like an opportunity, even the worst that could never, like, you know what? No, there's something here. I'm going to sit down and think, what did I learn from this? Like, how is my mind shifting and doing the little, You know what I mean? When you see it with that lens versus the lens of, oh, it's a disaster, it's all lenses. It's always a lens of positivity.
Right.
Where's the growth in this?
Yes.
It changes your life. It changes your reality.
It totally does. So the past few months I've had like a few, we'll call them crises.
Okay.
And of course I freak out a little bit and go through the process and all that, but the question always in the back of my mind is, what is the lesson? Like, I know I have to go through the human drama and figuring the problem out and all that, but what is the lesson? Like, why did this happen? What am I missing? Right. And so, sometimes I miss it completely, and I have to ask people, like, what do you think the lesson is here? And
Yeah.
sometimes an outside perspective can really help. But if you look at things that way, that a crisis is a lesson you haven't learned yet, it's going to help. And then
Yes.
you have to figure out how, of course, to solve it, but what
Yes.
the lesson is. And when you get the lesson, it won't repeat itself again.
Exactly. Like, because you got it. And also, it's okay to share your experience with people, right?
Right.
Because we are each other's guides, right? So you may not be able to, I mean, the lesson maybe is for you not to be able to decipher it, but for you to get help and assistance and like
Yeah.
guidance from the other perspective, right? So like lessons come in different ways. It's not always I'm all knowing and it should be all me, right? It's all like it's a co-creation,
Right.
and you learn from the other person as much as they're learning from you, because you're showing them your perspective.
Yeah.
They're thinking about it, and they're probably applying whatever happened to you. It happened to them last year, and they didn't have an answer. So everything is linked. Like, be transparent, be open, speak your mind, share your truth, be vulnerable, right? Because it invites the answers that you're seeking, whether it's within yourself or from the community, spiritual community, friends, coworkers, boss, mom and dad, whatever, right?
Right. I agree. Agreed.
So,
So exciting. It
I
is so
know.
exciting. Yeah.
This is
Now,
awesome.
have you got any more stories for today?
Do I have any more stories for today? Let me look at my list quickly.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Yes. One last story that just happened like 2 days ago. This was,
Okay,
what's
cool.
today's Monday? This was Friday. So like I'd say for 2 years, like since COVID came and I became,
Right.
all expanded, I've wanted to lucid dream so bad. Now, of course, Bashar says, and all the spiritual teachers, the most lucid dream you're living is this 3D life. It's our dream, right? Fine, I get it. But I want to lucid dream in the dream. And I would listen to all kinds of like things on YouTube as I'm sleeping to help lucid dreaming. I forget the names, like binaural beats and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I think one of my channels said, oh, ask before you go to bed, which of course I should have known this, right? But I just never did it. Ask before you sleep what you want to experience. Like, I want lucid dreaming, I want to whatever, help me remember. On Friday night to Saturday morning, or Saturday morning to like Sunday morning, I'm sleeping and I see like the Chinese lanterns that they kind of let go in the air, like hundreds of them flying in the beautiful sky at night. This is in my dream. And I had my friend with me, like there in the dream. And so like this is all in retrospect. When I actually like awoke, I'm like remembering this, right? I thought I had told my friend about my dream. So what just happened for the first time ever in like 42 years of my life, I dreamed within the dream. I was telling my friend in the dream about the dream that I was in the dream. Like, but I told him all the vividness of, I didn't skip a detail, but when I woke up in this 3D life, all I could remember are the lanterns going up in the sky, hundreds of them, and me telling my friend about the dream. So within the dream, I was dreaming, which is like prayer got answered. Like, it's hard to, if it's just such a magical world. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I did it in a sense, right? I asked and it came.
Right.
Like, to me, it's a massive thing because I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and a dream within a dream.
That's cool. I would recommend you start writing that stuff down, like dates and what it was, just
Yeah.
for fun, because you never know where that will lead you. But it's
Yeah.
like the pieces of a puzzle coming together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be my last kind of cool story that just happened. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I know you sent me a picture of a video of some praying mantises a few days ago. I don't remember what day. And I said, were their mouths moving? Like, did you get any messages from them?
Yes, I didn't look closely like whether, but like they were like he was going like this.
They were dancing.
They were dancing. But I'll need to look at the video again. We have a praying mantis like in our backyard that we've kind of grown from nothing. Like you can buy these pods at the nursery. They have like 100 mantises up to 200, and like when they're born, it's like if this is a praying mantis, it's miniaturized version.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like there was around like 40 or like 60 of them. Only one survived, and now it's this big.
Yeah.
This is not the one that I sent you the video of. The one I sent you the video of was like synchronistically.
They were wild.
They were wild at a house that I was showing. So I do real estate, and you know I was showing a house, and he was on the glass door, and like one time he was on like the lockbox where we leave the keys in, literally on the lockbox, standing, and I have a photo of that, which is like, and the message I got is that we are connected because it was one of those electronic lockboxes, right? It's like Wi-Fi enabled. He was saying we are connected. There's like a connection. There's a Wi-Fi connection between us.
That's so cool.
Totally
So
crazy.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah. Thank you so much, Toni, for your time. It has been a pleasure talking with you. And I'd like to talk with you again anytime you have time.
So thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing this beautiful channel to reach all your viewers. And I hope you get a million other viewers. It's just, this is how we help each other grow and learn and expand and support each other, like really, right? Because we're not alone in this world, although you may think you are, you're not. So thank you for allowing this beautiful platform.
Thank you so much. I'll be talking with you soon, Toni. Thank you.
Okay, love. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, do you guys see this? This is not even flashing. Is that an orb of light? Look, it's like this perfect circle. That's incredible. It's going through the trees. Now it's moving. Before it was kind of hovering, doing some weird moves. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And no, that is not a plane.